So this is my fourth video that I'm doing, following my daughter's advice to do a video to help share what I did alongside chemotherapy. So some alternative practices that helped me cope with what lies ahead. As a qualified yoga instructor and having practiced yoga since 1997, and also being a keen runner, although not a very good one, um, despite what I look like, physical fitness and flexibility have been a priority of mine for years. And it's the reason I opted to stay flat, to be honest, because I didn't want my body weakened by having additional surgery. And I also didn't want other areas of my body to be cut and weakened in order to create a boob. Um, but I knew that exercise would be important in order to help my body flush out the toxins. So exercise really is a good way of helping to keep you positive. If you can, I walked on as many days as I could. Chemotherapy is cumulative, and I found that my legs and my balance were affected, and this did get worse as time went on. I would get very fatigued, but exercise is a way of helping to overcome fatigue, believe it or not. So, although the walking wasn't always easy, I was lucky that I did have my husband around quite a lot to be able to hold my hand and be a support. If I could, in the early days of my chemotherapy, I did yoga at home as well. But there were many times that I couldn't do that, and it's especially once I started the docetaxel, which was after 4 rounds of the EC. The walking and the yoga helped also to keep my bowels working initially. But towards the end, I found that I couldn't walk as much, and therefore I also struggled with not being able to flush out the toxins. And I struggled with constipation, which I'm going to talk about in a video I do about nutrition. Um, I did have a doctor who clearly had never undergone any chemotherapy at all, suggest that walking wasn't enough and that maybe 5 minutes of cardio, like jumping jacks, would be a good way of overcoming fatigue. And the reason I laugh is because, quite frankly, on some days when you've had chemotherapy, it takes about 5 minutes to get out of bed, and that's about as much cardio as you can manage and muster. So take it from me as a normal person. If you can, and you can walk for about 10 minutes, it's good enough. And then you just slowly improve each time you do the chemo. You just try to keep that little bit of walking going, and then increase your time as the chemo leaves your system. It's worth knowing that chemotherapy stays in your system for 3 weeks. No, 6 weeks. Yes, I think it's 6 weeks. Anyway, what it meant was that when I started and I was having chemotherapy with the EC every other week. So by the time I had my third EC, I'd I'd also got the other previous two still in my system. So I'd got 3 lots of chemotherapy floating around my system. And on that particular occasion, I did feel incredibly poorly. But what I told myself was that this was the most amount of chemo I would have in my system at any one time, and it would only get easier from then on, because as each week goes by, once the chemo's gone through your system, 6 weeks, it then leaves. So so that's worth knowing, really, that it stays in your system for 6 weeks, but once 6 weeks has gone, the first one's out of your system. So try and do 5 minutes of walking, and then build it up, build it up, build it up. I set myself the challenge of trying to walk to every single chemotherapy session. I was living in Kennington, and and I was being treated at Guy's Hospital, and it's about it's just around about 3 kilometers, so just under 2 miles. And I managed to do that. I managed to be able to walk to every single chemotherapy session. Um, there was one time when it meant lots of sitting on benches and walls and things, and allowing a long time for the walk, but I was still able to do it. And now, I finished my chemotherapy in May, and I'm hoping that I can start building up to about 5 kilometers of walking. And obviously, what I really would like to do once I've got fully over the surgery, and I'm currently having radiotherapy, so as far as I can gather, that is also going to have an impact on fatigue and my ability. But I'm hoping to get back to running maybe for the autumn. Um, but we'll see how it goes. So don't throw yourself into a really vigorous exercise regime unless it's something that you've already been doing prior to your cancer diagnosis. If you've not done exercise at all, then yeah, walking gently and building it up is probably the best thing. So the exercise not only helps to it helps your digestive system to keep on working. It helps eliminate the toxins, but it also helps to keep your muscle strength, which helps with standing, sitting, and walking. And it's also a really good way to kind of feel a sense of empowerment, and to help you to keep on going. Some days are tough. Um, just do what you can. There were days when I could barely get out of bed, to be honest. And so rather than feel miserable about that, I just go, oh, I'm going to have a Netflix day. And I got lots of friends to recommend whatever shows and TV programs they were watching. And I just see it as a time when I could just, back to back watch TV, and try not to get too down about how immobile I was feeling, or how tired I was feeling, or how, what pain I might have been in. So some days it's tough, but you will recover, and everything that you're doing will help you to recover sooner rather than later. And sometimes it's just all about showing up and putting one foot in front of the other. So just keep showing up. What choice do we have? You'll have a lot of people say, "Oh, you're brave." Well, it's not really brave. It's just this is what we're dealt with, and we have to keep showing up in order to keep being here. So keep going.